What if one of the most important systems in your facility was slowly driving up energy costs, lowering air quality, and increasing equipment failures without any obvious warning signs?
Honestly, it's a terrifying thought when when you really think about the scale of these buildings.
Right. I mean, welcome to the deep dive, everyone. Today, we're looking directly at you, the facility managers and owners out there.
Yeah.
Because we're uncovering why ignoring routine HVAC cleaning in Atlanta, Georgia, is no longer just a small oversight.
Yeah, it's a growing operational risk for facilities of literally all sizes.
Exactly. And to figure out what's really at stake when this maintenance gets delayed, we are pulling insights directly from the service documentation, the technical breakdowns, and actual customer field notes from Metro Duct Cleaning LLC.
Which is fantastic data to have.
It really is. And they're actually the sponsor of this deep dive. They provide exceptional HVAC system cleaning in Atlanta, GA. You can reach them at 678-498-7371.
And they've been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah, operating in the Atlanta metro area since 2008. They're a Google-guaranteed, fully insured company. So their customer data gives us this unprecedented look into the mechanical failure points that are just kind of hidden inside our walls.
What's fascinating here is that the real story is about compounding variables.
Mhm.
Like, we are looking at the specific intersection where environmental realities collide with mechanical limitations.
Right, which creates this highly predictable, well, basically a linear degradation of multi-million-dollar commercial infrastructure.
Yeah. It's not random, it's physics.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Think about your facility's HVAC system as the lungs of your building.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Right. So if you are constantly running marathons in this humid, dusty environment without ever, clearing your airways, eventually you will start gasping for air.
Your body just can't keep up.
Exactly. Your cardiovascular system has to work twice as hard just to maintain baseline oxygen levels. And in this scenario, the environment driving that exhaustion is the relentless climate of Atlanta.
Which is brutal on machinery. I mean, we aren't looking at a mild temperate zone where commercial rooftop units get like a 6-month vacation.
No, not at all.
In Atlanta, facility managers are battling severe dew point challenges. You have intense ambient heat and incredibly high outdoor humidity. And all of that is constantly interacting with chilled commercial sheet metal ductwork.
Just nonstop condensation.
Exactly. Because of that rapid temperature differential, commercial systems in this region run continuously. They have to manage both the sensible heat, which is the actual temperature, and the latent heat, which is the moisture in the air.
So wait, when a massive industrial system is pulling in air 365 days a year, the ductwork basically transforms. It's no longer just a simple delivery mechanism.
Well, it becomes a high-speed collection matrix for particulate matter.
That sounds ominous.
Well, that continuous operation is the catalyst.
Yeah.
When you pull hot, humid Atlanta air into a commercial intake, the system rapidly cools it. But the structural challenge arises when that constant, unavoidable moisture meets the continuous flow of volatile organic compounds, industrial byproducts, dust, pollen.
Basically everything floating in the air.
Yeah, all of it. When that airborne particulate matter hits the damp metallic surfaces inside the ductwork, it doesn't just settle like normal dust.
What does it do?
It creates a dense, hardened matrix. It literally forms a paste that bakes onto the walls of the ducts, layer by layer, and that actively alters the physical geometry of the air passageway.
Oh, wow. So we aren't talking about a few dust bunnies blowing through a tube.
No, not at all.
We are talking about structural accumulation. It's effectively like paper mache hardening on the internal walls of the infrastructure,
That's exactly what it is.
which physically restricts the volume of air that can travel through that space. And I'm assuming that physical restriction translates directly into a massive financial drain.
Oh, absolutely. The physics of airflow dictate that any reduction in the diameter of the ductwork exponentially increases static pressure.
So the blower motor is suddenly fighting against severe resistance.
Yes, just to move the exact same cubic feet per minute of air.
Man, it's like trying to drive a 3-ton truck with the parking brake fully engaged.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it, but the engine has to redline just to move 20 miles per hour, and you are going to absolutely destroy the transmission in the process.
That analogy perfectly illustrates what happens to the electrical draw. Because when the blower motor fights that increased static pressure, it requires significantly more amperage to maintain the RPMs dictated by the thermostat.
And on a massive commercial scale, that amperage spike shows up aggressively on a facility's peak demand energy bill, right?
Huge spikes. The system runs longer cycles, it consumes more kilowatt hours, and continuously draws a higher current during operation.
Okay, but I got to push back here for a second.
Sure.
A commercial rooftop unit is built like an absolute tank. Is a layer of baked-on dust really enough to take down an industrial-grade machine? Or are we just talking about a frustrating bump in monthly utility costs?
It's a fair question.
I mean, it's just hard to believe dust actually breaks equipment designed to cool a 50,000 square foot manufacturing floor.
Well, it's not the dust that breaks the equipment, it is the thermal overload.
Okay.
When airflow drops because of that structural accumulation we talked about, the motor is forced to run outside of its engineered thermal limits.
Because it's working so hard.
Right. The heat generated by that constant high amperage struggle begins to degrade the protective insulation on the motor windings.
Wow.
Yeah, and once that insulation melts or becomes brittle, the motor shorts out. So you aren't just dealing with a slightly higher energy bill, you are drastically shortening the lifespan of highly expensive capital equipment.
So the dust is just the catalyst.
Exactly.
Thermal overload is the actual killer, which means deferred maintenance is basically guaranteeing a sudden six-figure capital expenditure.
Precisely. You are replacing a massive commercial unit years before its projected end of life, simply because you let the system choke itself to death.
That is insane.
And beyond the catastrophic motor failures, there is the immediate risk to industrial operations. Unimpeded airflow is strictly required in, like, a manufacturing plant or a hospital or a large-scale retail environment.
Right, they can't just open a window.
No, so if the blower motor fails due to thermal overload, you face massive operational downtime. Production lines halt because the equipment on the floor cannot handle the sudden temperature spike.
Or the indoor environment suddenly failed to meet occupational safety codes.
Right. Furthermore, when highly flammable materials like lint, pet hair, and dried particulate matter accumulate in enclosed spaces, particularly around heating elements or commercial dryer vents, you are introducing a severe fire hazard into the building's envelope.
Man. And addressing those hazards before they trigger a catastrophic failure is exactly why having a reliable specialized service on speed dial is just non-negotiable.
It really is.
So if you are a facility manager staring down the barrel of peak demand energy spikes, or maybe you've got an aging commercial unit, you need to call our sponsor, Metro Duct Cleaning, LLC.
They really are top tier.
They are the gold standard. Their expertly trained technicians possess the highest levels of certification. They utilize only the most advanced equipment and cutting-edge techniques. Call the sponsor now. HVAC System Cleaning in Atlanta, GA.
It's just smart facility management.
Seriously. Their phone number is 678-498-7371. And, you know, the technical breakdowns we are discussing today, they're backed up by Metro Duct Cleaning's flawless track record. They hold a 5-star rating across the board.
Yeah, reading through their customer testimonials really contextualizes the immediate impact of their work. The field reports highlight a consistent theme, resolving complex mechanical blockages efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, like take Eva Lawrence in Atlanta, for example.
Oh, that was a crazy one.
Her testimonial notes that the Metro Duct Cleaning team successfully cleared out hardened debris from her vents that literally no other company in the area could manage.
Right. They arrived with the expertise to handle a blockage that had completely defeated standard cleaners.
And then you have James Davis in Marietta. His reviews specifically highlighted their rapid response time and reasonable rates.
Which is so critical when you're dealing with fire hazards.
Exactly. They deployed the very next day to clear a massive lint blockage, directly mitigating a major dryer vent fire hazard.
That isn't just cleaning, that is emergency hazard prevention delivered with incredible speed.
Completely agree.
Right.
Again, call the sponsor now, HVAC System Cleaning in Atlanta, GA. That number is 678-498-7371.
So mitigating thermal overload and fire hazards protects the physical asset, right? But we really have to shift our focus to the biological impact.
Okay, let's go there.
Because while the financial cost of a mechanical breakdown is severe, the cost to the people breathing the air inside these facilities is profound.
Yeah, we are looking at the indoor air quality now, which brings an entirely different set of liabilities to facility management.
Absolutely. Think about it. We spend the vast majority of our lives indoors relying on these enclosed environments. When a commercial HVAC system is neglected, it basically ceases to be a climate control mechanism. It essentially becomes a highly efficient distribution network for biological pollutants.
That paints a gross picture.
It is gross. Because of the constant moisture present in the system, the ductwork acts as an incubator. It actively cultures mold spores, collects pollen and pet dander, breeds bacteria, and then, this is the worst part, it aerosolizes those contaminants into every single room of the facility, continuously.
Here's where it gets really interesting. There is a testimonial in the source material from an Atlanta homeowner named Barbara Burton.
Oh, yeah, the damp basement one.
Yes, she mentioned that whenever she turned on the AC, the house smelled exactly like a damp basement, and she realized it was making her family physically sick.
Because it wasn't just a smell.
Right. They eventually discovered black mildew growing right on the intake louver.
Mhm.
And it makes you wonder, how often do we walk into a commercial space, a hallway, or an office, notice a musty smell, and just accept it?
All the time.
We just brush it off as an old building without realizing we are actively inhaling aerosolized mildew with every single breath.
It highlights a massive blind spot in facility maintenance. I mean, we meticulously filter our drinking water, right? Yet we completely ignore the air quality in our workspaces.
It makes no sense.
In commercial facilities, this continuous circulation of particulate matter and biological growth directly causes what's known as sick building syndrome.
So how exactly does a localized patch of mildew in, like one duct, translate to an entire facility suffering from sick building syndrome?
It all comes down to pressure differentials.
Okay.
Commercial HVAC systems operate by creating very specific zones of positive and negative pressure to circulate air. If you have a damp area, say a sub-basement or a poorly insulated return plenum where biological growth has established itself, the system's negative pressure will actively pull those pathogens into the main airstream.
Oh, so it just sucks it all up.
Exactly. And then the blower pressurizes the supply ducts, distributing those mold spores and volatile organic compounds evenly across a 10,000 square foot office space.
Wow. So what does this all mean? It means we are inadvertently weaponizing our own air supply.
We really are.
By neglecting the ductwork, a facility manager is systematically pushing pathogens into the respiratory systems of their workforce.
And the measurable outcome of that is chronic respiratory problems, triggered asthma attacks, lethargy, and a documented spike in employee absenteeism.
Which hurts the bottom line anyway.
Precisely. You cannot sustain a highly productive workforce if the building envelope itself is making the occupants physically ill. A sanitized duct system is not an optional maintenance line item. It is the fundamental baseline requirement for a safe, CUB-compliant indoor environment.
Which means the cleaning process has to go far beyond just, like, removing the hardened physical debris.
Oh, yeah. A standard brush isn't going to fix a biological growth.
Right. You can't just scrape the walls. You have to address the biological footprint left behind. And the source documentation from MetroDuct details a comprehensive deodorizing and sanitizing protocol that handles this at the molecular level.
Professional sanitization tackles the pernicious pollutants that cause those damp basement odors we talked about.
How do they do it?
Well, MetroDuct cleaning utilizes specialized, eco-friendly disinfectants that are safely fogged or dispersed throughout the entirety of the ductwork.
Okay.
This process specifically targets and eradicates the bacteria, viruses, and active biological growth, so they are neutralizing the source of the odors rather than just masking them with a fragrance.
So if you're a facility manager looking at a 500-foot network of rigid sheet metal, knowing the risks, the amperage spikes, the thermal overload, the aerosolized pathogens, that's really only the first step.
Yeah, diagnosing the problem is easy. Fixing it is hard.
Right. The execution of the solution is where the engineering really shines.
Right.
Because you can't just stick a standard shop vac into a commercial vent and hope for the best.
Definitely not.
You have to essentially engineer a controlled windstorm inside the walls.
That's a great way to describe it. The mechanics of industrial duct cleaning require a staggering array of specialized, heavy-duty technology.
Yeah, I was looking at their gear list. It's intense.
To completely reset a system of that scale, professionals deploy negative air machines equipped with medical-grade HEPA filtration, massive commercial air compressors, high-powered vacuums,
And highly specialized brushes calibrated for the delicate fins of the evaporator coils and registers.
Exactly.
I was reviewing the technical breakdown of these tools, and there is one specific piece of equipment that caught my eye.
Oh, which one?
The documentation repeatedly mentions air whips.
Ah, yes.
The air whip. What exactly is an air whip, and how do you deploy something that sounds that aggressive inside a duct without completely destroying flexible fiberglass or compromising the airtight seals of the ductwork?
This raises an important question because the true hallmark of professional HVAC restoration is the balance between aggressive eradication of debris and the absolute preservation of the structural infrastructure.
Because you don't want to break the ducts while you're cleaning them.
Right, so an air whip is basically a flexible pneumatic tentacle connected to a high-pressure air compressor.
Okay.
When it's fed into the duct, the compressed air forces the whip to thrash violently but safely against the interior walls. It serves as a pneumatic agitator.
So it beats that hardened paste-like matrix loose from the metal.
Exactly.
But wait, if you are beating decades of hardened debris loose inside a duct, how do you prevent all of that toxic particulate matter from just blowing out of the registers and coating the entire manufacturing floor or office space?
That is where the negative air machine comes into play, and it involves incredibly precise calculations of cubic feet per minute, or CFM.
Okay, walk me through that.
Before the agitation even begins, the technicians seal the registers and attach a massive vacuum to the trunk line of the HVAC system. This places the entire duct network under severe negative pressure.
Like a giant straw.
Yes. As the air, whips, and brushes dislodge the debris, the vacuum forcefully pulls every single particle backward, away from the living or working space.
And it traps it.
Yeah, it traps it entirely within a contained HEPA filter system.
Oh, so the negative pressure essentially builds an invisible wall.
Exactly.
It ensures the airflow only moves in one direction out of the building,
Yep.
so the contamination never breaches the workspace.
That's it. And to ensure this is done without compromising the physical ducts, reputable companies execute a rigorous multi-step process: inspection, cleaning, sanitization, and final inspection.
That initial inspection has to be critical, right?
It is. The technicians assess the specific material of the ductwork first. Rigid sheet metal can withstand high-pressure agitation, whereas flexible fiberglass requires lower pressure and softer brushes.
Makes sense.
Calibrating the equipment to the specific material guarantees code compliance. It protects the structural integrity of the system and ensures the entire operation is conducted with minimal disruption to the facility's daily workflow.
It is a meticulously calculated operation. And looking at the timelines recommended in the field notes, facilities should be undergoing this level of comprehensive cleaning every 3 to 5 years to maintain baseline thermal efficiency.
Yeah, that's the standard recommendation.
However, it explicitly notes that specific high-risk elements, like those commercial dryer vents we discussed earlier, require annual clearing to prevent the severe fire hazards associated with lint blockages.
Right. That 3 to 5 year interval is generally the sweet spot for maintaining peak efficiency, assuming the facility utilizes standard commercial filtration and experiences normal environmental loads.
But Atlanta isn't normal.
Exactly. Given the severe humidity, the constant heat, and the continuous runtimes demanded by the Atlanta climate, pushing maintenance beyond that window is just a guaranteed path to system failure.
The ultimate takeaway here is stark and undeniable. HVAC system cleaning is no longer an optional luxury for facilities in Atlanta, GA. It is an absolute operational necessity.
Without a doubt.
We've seen the mechanics of how regular maintenance acts as the primary shield for your system's performance. By eliminating the structural accumulation inside your ducts, you eliminate the static pressure.
Right, which immediately slashes your peak demand energy costs.
And it halts the thermal degradation of your blower motors, extends the life of incredibly expensive capital equipment, and most importantly, it provides a vastly healthier, pathogen-free environment for the people inside your building.
And it accomplishes all of this in a relentless climate that constantly challenges mechanical efficiency.
It is a critical investment that protects both the mechanical assets on your roof and the human assets working beneath them.
Well said.
So if you manage a commercial facility, run a manufacturing plant, or simply want to ensure your home isn't actively cycling pathogens into your living room, do not wait for a thermal overload or a massive energy bill.
Be proactive.
Yes. Call the sponsor now. HVAC System Cleaning in Atlanta. GA contact Metro Duct Cleaning LLC at 678-498-7371. Their expertly trained technicians possess the highest levels of certification, and they utilize cutting-edge equipment to cleanse your ducts to a level that exceeds the most exacting of standards.
They really know exactly how to handle the unique environmental challenges of the Atlanta area.
They do. Let them restore your system's thermal efficiency. Again, that phone number is 678-498-7371.
As we wrap up this technical breakdown, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider the next time you walk into your office or facility.
All right, let's hear it.
If a massive, heavily engineered system designed specifically to provide us with fresh, breathable air can so easily become the exact mechanism polluting it, what other invisible infrastructure in your daily life are you trusting to function perfectly without ever looking inside?
Oh, wow. Yeah, we'll leave you to think about that. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.